thought leadership is the most organic way to embody leadership. You don't have to talk a certain way or dress a certain way. You just have to solve problems. And when you share an idea or a thought from your experience, you are going to immediately stand out as a leader. You're not going to have to worry about this executive presence, because at the end of the day, I think what these leaders are going after when they tell clients to have executive presence is they're going after this essence or this feeling that they feel from this person, that they have confidence, that they have conviction, and that they are ready to lead, to navigate through change, to be in the messy, and to be confident in it. And so you're going to be most confident with your thought leadership, because your thought leadership is your lived experience, is what you bring to the table. Executive presence reinforces the idea that women of color have to work twice as hard to get the same opportunities. Let me say that again. Executive presence reinforces the idea that women of color have to work twice as hard to get the same opportunities. They are not ready. No. They ain't ready for all this authenticity. And so if I focused on executive presence, I would have lost a long time ago. Like, my power, my self-esteem, my ability to see myself as a leader, I would have lost a long time ago. I'm your host, TaSheena Braxton, and I am on a mission to disrupt the industry standard that fancy titles make leaders, and teaching my clients how to become leaders and get their own seats at the table. Every week, I will explore a topic that impacts women of color. I will unpack the topic and provide learning so that you can feel equipped to step into leadership. I went from laid off to an entry-level job to a mid-level multiple six figures role where I wasn't the highest on the org chart, but I was able to sit in rooms with CEOs, CFOs, and CMOs without a fancy title. As a mom of 4, a wife, and the eldest daughter of 6, I know what it means to lead in every aspect of your life and to be able to translate that into the workplace. Welcome to the Leadership Beyond the Title podcast. So glad to have you here. Now let's get into it. Hello, and welcome back to the podcast. I am recording this right now. My kids do not have school today, so I'm hoping that you don't hear any noise in the background as I'm recording this, because typically I'll have an empty, quiet house, but not today. But I wanted to get into this episode by starting out with just letting you know how shocked I am that in 2024, the systems that are at play in our workplaces haven't changed much from the way they were like 50 years ago. When we look around, we are still seeing the cultures of organizations that are quite similar, but with just a remix version of itself. There is this like underlying system or engine maintaining the neutrality or the flow of what the organization has been. And there's not a lot of change as rapidly as the world is changing. And they probably should be changing a lot quicker. I've noticed that these systems will continuously work to maintain the status quo or the equilibrium. So the processes, the structures, the routines are literally designed to maintain a steady state, and it prevents disruption. So it literally is trying to preserve stability. And to drive this point home of what I'm trying to say is, I'm going to give you an example from the study of biomimicry, which is the study of how to emulate the way nature is set up to solve human challenges in a sustainable way. Biomimicry literally means to imitate life. And so an example I have is that some animals and ecosystems in nature stick to what they know. They even might do this when it might actually hurt them in the long run. So an example is like koalas. Let's take koalas, for example. They eat mostly eucalyptus leaves, which don't have a lot of nutrients and even can be toxic. Koalas are so set on this one food that if eucalyptus trees disappear or change, they don't really have other options. This narrow diet that koalas have also makes them sluggish, and it limits their ability to handle big changes like climate shifts or forest fires. So we know how that feeling of sluggish, like when you eat a lot of bread, for instance, when I eat a lot of bread, right after I eat like carbs, I'll say, I get sluggish and I'm just like, oh, this is probably not the right diet. Even as I'm getting older, if I eat a lot of sweets, I kind of get tired and sluggish too. This is the way that koalas feel from eating eucalyptus. But I'll give you another example in what we see with coral reefs. Corals need stable ocean conditions to build their skeletons. But as the ocean becomes more acidic, they are having a tough time. They are literally trying to keep up with their usual way of building, but the changing water makes it hard for them to do. And so they have learned to kind of change what they're doing in order to survive, which is different from what koalas do. They're like, I'm just going to stick to this thing. And these examples show us that while sticking to one way of doing things can work for a while, it can leave you very vulnerable. Like koalas with their eucalyptus or corals with the ocean's pH levels, holding too tightly to the status quo can mean missing the chance to adapt when things change. And that should be a reminder for all of us that sometimes it's good to be flexible and open to change rather than just sticking to what we know. But what I'm hearing from the different clients and different people I talk to, people of color in organizations, is that when they are working in these organizations and they are trying to advance in their careers, they are being told this phrase that gets under my skin, which is, you need more executive presence. And I will cringe at the thought of the idea that executive presence is what is maintaining the status quo. It is what is keeping the equilibrium in organizations. And there isn't any deviation from what that looks like. Because when I ask my clients, what does executive presence actually mean? They don't really have the words for it. And they're looking to the most senior leaders or anyone with a higher job title as an example of what executive presence is. So I'm like, okay, so you're looking at this leader. What gives them executive presence? And I'll hear things like they dress a certain way or they talk with a commanding voice and people listen to their ideas or their ideas are being considered, or when they walk around with their chest poked out and they are taking up space in the room like an authoritarian figure, like someone that is commanding and in charge. And this is so hard for my clients that I work with because a lot of my clients are introverts. And so the way that they are being told or the assumptions that they have about executive presence is something that they will never be able to embody unless they totally transform and become somebody different. And we know that is not sustainable over the long term. So I had to do my own research because I know the feeling of being told to achieve something or to embody a particular leadership style and not having a clue what it even means. And so in my research, what I found was that executive presence is defined by how you act or your gravitas. Every time I say that word, I'm like, your gravitas. Like it's like a swag, like a way of being that's like chef's kiss, right? And They say that the research that I found says executive presence is defined by your gravitas and also by how you speak or your communication and how you look, how you appear, how you dress. And that narrow definition of executive presence got me thinking, what if you are a Black or brown person? Does the way you act, the way you speak, or the way you look fit in with those standards of what your organization or society deems to be okay? Will you actually be accepted in the same way? I mean, there are a lot of smart, bright Black and brown people out there who are excluded, dismissed, and overlooked, or even spoken over because they are assumed to not be smart enough based on their physical characteristics. Even when we are told to show up as our full self or in our full authenticity, like I tell people, the powers that be, and I'm doing air quotes with my fingers right now, but they are not ready. No. They ain't ready for all this authenticity. I wear my hair with red braids, and when not in braids, I have a full natural style. I let my hair do its thing as it naturally comes out of my scalp. And a lot of that is cultural, and I love it. And it's how I express myself. It makes me feel confident and powerful and ready to lead powerfully. But it's not necessarily the standard or the status quo of many organizations that we work in. And so if I focused on executive presence, I would have lost a long time ago. Like my power, my self-esteem, my ability to see myself as a leader, I would have lost a long time ago. And so that's why I don't focus on executive presence, because women of color are not accepted for their full authenticity. And it's really hard to embody something that is so narrowly defined and only appears in spaces and at tables that you are not invited to. I focus on thought leadership instead. Thought leadership is this idea of bringing fresh ideas, insights, or beliefs into the workplace that will drive impact and create a culture of innovation and experimentation. If your organization is facing a unique challenge, it's better to bring your thought leadership, aka your fresh idea or your innovative thought, to the table rather than waiting until you embody this executive presence. Because waiting on that is just going to slow everything down. The way that I act, the way that I communicate or dress is the least of anyone's concern. Well, the least of any of your customers or your patients or your clients' concerns if they are facing a hard challenge that needed to be taken care of like yesterday. Nobody has time to wait for you to embody executive presence when you can open your mouth and bring something of value today. Yes, I do believe that being respectful and being clear in your speech so that someone can take direction is necessary, but ain't nothing wrong with a little slang every now and then. So why thought leadership? How does that make a difference? As a woman of color, you are not going to make everyone like your physical appearance or your speech fast enough to move into a new role that opens up or to solve a challenge that needs to be solved right away. But your lived experiences and your background is an asset that is ready for you to lean into when you need to tackle a big, scary, hairy problem or issue. It's because your thought leadership is offering a different way to look at the issue than how it had been looked at before. If koalas would stop looking at the eucalyptus trees as the only thing they can eat, and they have so many other options like other fruits and vegetables, it will solve their problems from being sluggish and from the extermination or elimination of eucalyptus trees and not having food, period. Thought leadership is going to give you the ability to drive change. I often take my experiences as a mom to the workplace to help with change initiatives. And the moms, y'all are going to feel me on this. I have literally mastered managing chaos, shifting priorities, driving actions while having to keep relationships intact. As a matter of fact, as I'm recording this, I had just had to pause this to tell my son to be quiet. I told you at the beginning of this episode, my kids is home. It's no school. And so I know how to master the chaos that's happening. And it doesn't matter if we're in a morning rush, if there's last minute schedule changes, if I'm resolving conflicts between my kids, or even if I'm trying to record a podcast and my son is loud in the background. It is the same as implementing, navigating, managing a major change at work. What I've learned from being a mom allows me to bring those same tools to leaders that I work with, to manage change by listening first. So I always got to listen. When my kids are arguing, I got to listen what's going on, evaluate the problem, analyze it, understand the concerns, understand what's happening, who said what, who did what. And then I have to meet people where they are, meet my children where they are to say, okay, this is what you're trying to do, and this is what you're trying to do. Let's see how we can reach some level of alignment so that you both get some element of what you want, because 9 times out of 10, you're not going to get 100% of what you want. And then we have to get the buy-in. Are you okay with this? Is this good enough? Because I could give you this thing, or for instance, my 2 youngest sons, I could let you play this game right now and then you play it later. But if you want to keep arguing, nobody will play at all today. Have we reached alignment with this? And these are the type of things that I've learned as a mom that have expanded my thought leadership to how I can bring it into the workplace. It's the same thing like the study of biomimicry that I started talking about at the beginning of this podcast, where look to nature to determine how to solve human problems. Okay, this is how you build your thought leadership. Thought leadership is the most organic way to embody leadership. You don't have to talk a certain way or dress a certain way. You just have to solve problems. And when you share an idea or a thought from your experience, you are going to immediately stand out as a leader. You're not going to have to worry about this executive presence, because at the end of the day, I think what these leaders are going after when they tell clients to have executive presence is they're going after this essence or this feeling that they feel from this person, that they have confidence, that they have conviction, and that they are ready to lead, to navigate through change, to be in the messy, and to be confident in it. And so you're going to be most confident with your thought leadership, because your thought leadership is your lived experience, is what you bring to the table. Executive presence reinforces the idea that women of color have to work twice as hard to get the same opportunities. Let me say that again. Executive presence reinforces the idea that women of color have to work twice as hard to get the same opportunities. It's confusing. It's frustrating, because executive presence is a moving goalpost based on who you're talking to. It's very subjective. So it is going to be harder to achieve, especially when it's used as coded language that you're not a leader, you don't belong here, you're not qualified, you're not smart enough. So let me just tell you need executive presence, or let me just tell you need to be more like the dominant culture. You need to be more like me in order to get a seat at the table. Your thought leadership is your superpower. It is the thing that makes you stand out way more than anybody else, because it's unique, it's different. It's a superpower because you're going to be confident about it. It's where you're going to create lasting influence, And executives are going to take notice of the value that you're bringing because, oh my gosh, you've solved a problem in a new way. And when you start to approach your work looking for ways to share your thought leadership, it will literally change the game for you. Literally, because you're pulling from your lived experiences, you're looking around to provide value, and you're sharing it with your boss or team or anyone who can benefit from what you have to offer. So in my one-on-one coaching program, what I like to do to help you build your thought leadership is this method where we look back and we reflect on your personal and your professional journey. We identify key experiences that have shaped you, have shaped your perspectives. We list lessons learned and skills that you have developed from these experiences. And then we will evaluate the present, like your current work environment, and what are the challenges, what are the opportunities that you have right now. And then we will bridge the gap and make the connections so that you can take your lived experiences with the present situations and articulate the unique value that your perspective brings to whatever the situation is. And then we'll learn how to strategically craft your message in a clear, concise, and an impactful way, and then determine who you need to share this with. Is it a boss? Is it a team? Is it with colleagues? So we do this in my one-on-one coaching program because you need to learn how to share your thought leadership by leveraging the past and bridging that into the future or the present and then into the future so that you can stand out in your career and not have to worry about executive presence anymore. So I hope this was helpful for you. If you've ever been the person on the other side that's been told, you need to have executive presence, I want you to think, F your executive presence. I'm going to stand in my power and bring my thought leadership instead. So thank you for listening to this episode. And until next week, bye. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Leadership Beyond the Title podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, hit like, follow, and leave a comment. Share with your friends, family members, and other women of color leaders. Inside my one-on-one leadership coaching program, I will help you become the leader that you want to be with work-life integration and peace. By tapping into networks, growing your visibility and confidence, you will go from untapped, unseen, and underrepresented to attracting opportunities to take your career and your life to the next level. I use an equity-centered lens in my approach so that you feel seen, safe, empowered, excited, and committed to attract, create, and land opportunities in an unconventional way. To work with me, join my email newsletter, or to learn more about me, click the links in the show notes. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to being your coach. See you next week.